Iran has had a lot of the building blocks needed to build a nuclear bomb, and the US and its allies have been worried that's exactly what Iran's been doing, until now.
Iran is not looking for weapons of mass destruction and never will be.
That's thanks to a new deal on Iran's nuclear energy program in exchange for sanction relief.
I am confident that this deal will meet the national security interests of the United States and our allies.
The removal of the threat of an Iranian nuclear weapon is a game changer.
Cases where countries have diplomatic relations, even in cases where they might be otherwise enemies, there's a good chance that we can prevent accidental use of nuclear weapons. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union and the United States actually came up with a very detailed protocol system to prevent accidental use of nuclear weapons. And what's important to remember is even during that time when both countries were arch enemies, they did have diplomatic relations with each other.
But what about the threat from countries like North Korea?
Hans, we've been through this a dozen times. I don't have any weapons of mass destruction, okay, Hans?
It might be one of the world's poorest nations, but North Korea's nuclear weapons program seems to be booming. But whether they have the technology to launch those weapons is another matter. And they're not keen to follow Iran's lead.
We do not have any interest at all in dialogue for unilaterally freezing or giving up our nukes.
The danger is where you have countries where there is no diplomatic relationship, like for example between the United States and North Korea. However, there are enough technological mechanisms to be able to identify potential movements of different kinds of nuclear missiles and warheads.
The closest the world has ever come to nuclear war was the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. A series of miscommunications and miscalculations saw the US and the Soviet Union almost come to blows. But even today, people are still sometimes too quick to panic.
It's not as simple as just pushing a button and launching a nuclear weapon. The likelihood of that is relatively low. However, there have been cases of near misses. Chatham House, which is a think tank in the UK, did an investigation last year of historical near misses of nuclear accidents from militaries, and they came up with 13 examples over a period of about 60 years.
Islamic State claims it can get its hands on a nuclear weapon within a year.
Getting access to nuclear material is a concern across the board, and Hollywood movies like The Sum of All Fears, they do have some level of credibility.
We have reason to believe the bomb was the work of terrorists, not the Russians.
But where you have rogue elements of black marketeering in weapons, especially from that post-Soviet period, that should remain a concern, and that requires much closer intelligence gathering to make sure to prevent that.
More than 4 years after the Fukushima disaster, radiation is still being scrubbed from roads and buildings.
The chance of a Fukushima-type incident happening again is very real. However, a lot of lessons have been learned from that accident. It's important to keep in mind that in over 6 decades of nuclear power, there have been only a handful of very serious accidents, such as Fukushima or Chernobyl. No doubt we have to be concerned, and monitoring is in order.
Australia has been touted as a possible location for a radioactive waste dump, but the idea is a controversial one.
No waste at Lagany!
Nuclear waste poses environmental and security threats, so industry is looking at new methods.
I would hope that greater research effort is made by countries like Australia in breeder reactors, which could actually reprocess that waste, make it less dangerous, and thereby also increase the energy efficiency of using nuclear materials.